Technical skills will get you in the room, but human skills determine what happens once you're there. So on paper, you look amazing. And these days with AI, everybody's resume is amazing. But when they show up to that interview, when they show up on that first day on that job, it doesn't align. So I tell them again, focus on the human skills. One of the biggest mistakes interns make is assuming that the internship is primarily about work. It's really also about demonstrating that people could trust you, right? So I think helping them figure that out. And again, that goes back to my point of there's a premium on being human in this age of AI. And that's going to be even more important. There was a report that came out from LinkedIn a couple of years ago where at the beginning of this AI kind of revolution, where the CEO was talking about that. He's like, the most in demand skills will be success skills or soft skills, as he calls them, because there's so much AI everywhere. And the person who can show up as a human being and demonstrate that you're trustworthy, manager can delegate a task to you and can get it done. To show up to an event, you could go to a conference, we could trust you to represent the brand. That's the young person that they're going to trust and who's going to get those responsibilities and promotions and all that kind of stuff.
What are the biggest workplace shifts today?
This book was born out of 12 years of experience of working with interns pre-AI. I started writing this book in 2022. And when AI came along, I had to pivot because, again, that was affecting the future of work. The book is really meant to be almost like a guide. The new interns entering this new AI-driven workplace. So, yes, things have shifted a lot. A lot of companies are relying on AI a lot. And in my experience, working with high school and college students, recent college grads, they're not getting that experience, that education in college or in school, in the classroom. And I've always positioned myself as a bridge between work and school. Getting young people ready for the workplace is all about AI literacy, human skills, and social capital, which I feel, and I say this a lot these days, there's a premium on being human in the age of AI.
How did you develop your three-part formula?
Working with young people, they're super smart. They can pass the test, they could do all that stuff. The theory is really easy for them. When I meet them, they're lacking a network, which is a social capital. Nobody's really sat down and said to them, listen, if you want to break into finance or be in investment banking, yes, you got to be smart and understand the technicals and be able to do discounted cash flows and analyze companies. That's great. You have to do all that stuff. But the thing that really gets you in the door is your relationships. And I always tell young people, your network is going to open up doors for you that your college degree just can't. So that's the social capital I've seen in real time working with over 500 young people over the years and getting them jobs and internships in finance. Yes, they were smart, but when they met me and entered my programs, etc., we took that to the next level, which is like, how do you translate that into something that gets you into the door, which is the social capital, the human skills, having an elevator pitch. You understand, like making sure your resume is going to pass the HR test. And then the AI literacy part, like I said, came along within the last 2 years that we add that there. But yes, you're right. Most books and most curriculum and all that stuff that I've seen in doing research for this book kind of separate those three things. I have found that this is actually the formula that makes interns successful. Understanding again that the human in the loop still matters these days, and the interns that show up and actually can form a relationship with someone. We know COVID did our young people a huge disservice, right? They got used to that world, but now we're back in person, and that still matters. And actually, that gives you the edge, so to speak, these days.
What personal experiences from your journey to hedge fund CTO shaped the lessons in this book?
So what I learned is that talent is everywhere, but opportunity isn't. I was in New York for a long time, over 15, 20 years, and my entire career was on trading floors. When I looked at the room, and you know this, we've been connected for a while. The reason why I started this whole journey like 12 years ago is because I was typically the only person who looked like me, talked like me, was from my background in those rooms on those floors. Also led me to realize that, listen, I was managing interns every summer, and I saw that they were all related to or connected to somebody at that firm. So again, going back to my point of social capital, the relationships, etc., coming from being an immigrant, coming from Trinidad, not knowing anybody, I tell people all the time, finance happened to me. I had no idea what Wall Street was about or the markets, investing. None of my family members worked in finance or tech or anything. I just happened to have my first job on a trading floor at Chase Bank back in the day. I was just consumed and obsessed with the environment. I wanted to learn. And as you know, this industry is not for everybody. So I made friends. I started teaching myself. This was before, AI, and back then we hardly had YouTube even. So it was really books. It was like me going to traders and say, hey, I want to know what you do every day. Can I just sit here and observe and shadow you? And that's how it came about. But I also realized the people who succeed aren't always the smartest people in the room. right? They're often the ones who understand the unwritten rules, so to speak. And this book and everything that I do in my career in the social impact, working with young people, is about giving them the inside game, teaching them how to build relationships and how to position themselves for opportunity.
What distinguishes interns who secure return offers from those who do not?
I was exclusively actually targeting the young people who were disconnected from that industry. And I would go to these firms and I would tell them, listen, all these firms are recruiting from they're fishing from the same talent pond when it comes to like schools. And you know how it works at a lot of these firms, they typically recruit from, what they've been doing forever. If the founders went to that school, that's what they'll recruit from every summer. And I said to them, your next intern or your next future hire doesn't even know that your firm exists yet. I'm looking for the students who don't know they want to be in finance, don't know anything about fintech. They're super smart. They're probably not even pursuing a degree in finance or economics or whatever. So most of my young people over the years have not been finance majors. They just have wasn't exposed to it. And I say this all the time. You've heard me say this, kids just can't be what they can't see. So I think the ones who've been able to be successful, when I met them, they were open-minded, coachable, always show up on time. I tell them if you're on time, you're late, be early, right? It's just these little tiny things that nobody teaches them. And when they show up and they do these things every day and they make eye contact and they have this elevator pitch and they're able to like absorb what's going on around them and pay attention, be focused, be present. Again, the intangible things that they're not being taught anywhere else in school or maybe sometimes at home because they're coming from places where they lack that exposure. I was taking students to New York every summer for a week on Wall Street. These were kids who had never been on a plane before. And it's by no coincidence today in 2026, looking back 10 years, I have about 50 plus of my mentees living and working in New York. And many of them, the first experience was being on that plane with me and being able to visit the New York Stock Exchange, Goldman Sachs, Bloomberg, sit down in a boardroom with CEOs, have a conversation. I taught them how to read a room, right? Again, all of these things that I put into this book as well.
How can an intern ethically use AI to work smarter and stand out in their first week?
Real example is a young person that I've been, and one of my longtime mentees, right? He said to me, like, here, his department is bringing this AI technology into his group, right? He's in the research space. Before this was happening, it was literally him spending hours and hours at the office, doing tons of research, weekends, you name it. So now they brought this platform, this AI model in. He's the youngest on the team too, as well. So a lot of firms have been doubling down on interns because, that's one way to help educate the older folks at the firm as well. So it kind of fell on him. It's like, listen, we have this new tool. We want you to just play around with it. And the thing that a lot of young people probably misunderstand about AI is that they feel they need to be experts at it. I've been playing around with this stuff for 2+ years. I'm not an expert. I just happen to be in it all day long, right? And as soon as something comes out, I want to like experiment and I want to test it out. But the average person isn't doing that. So these young people, this young person in particular, he got this tool. He called me up. He's like, hey, Bevon, I don't know. You seem to be the AI guy these days. Can you just give me a little advice how to approach this project? I said, think about AI as a tool that's going to help you save a lot of hours every week, help you massage a huge amount of data, right? And generate something that actually makes sense. So I think I kind of like message to him that this is going to help you save time. Always verify, right? Trust but verify. At the end of the day, you don't want to put stuff in the that doesn't make sense or makes you look bad. So I think helping them understand that it's a tool to help you be more efficient. I also kind of describe it as the new hire you can't afford to hire. Is the tool that's going to be there. You have this huge task to do, and it's so interactive, right? You can actually talk to it now. You could prompt it, and you can reuse a lot of that stuff as well. So for this young person in particular, he was able to really be a standout now, looking at 6 months later, as now the default so-called expert on the team. He's his part of his role has evolved to actually experiment and test out new tools and figure out how it can be applied to what he does and what his department does, and overall, how it can benefit the firm as well. But the ethical part is important because I also do a lot of workshops for like boards and all that stuff and senior leaders to help them craft policy. There's a wild west sometimes with AI where people are uploading, company information, but it shouldn't be doing. All that is always a lesson I always kind of message to young people, like be careful, understand what the policy is as well.
What 3 practical steps should a first-generation intern take to build social capital from scratch?
It's before you even show up at that company. It's not even the first month. It's probably the first 3 months before you start. And that's why I was getting my young people. That's how I connect with them. Before I send them to that firm, I want them to show up and overperform. Most opportunities, as we know, don't come from applications, don't come from the job board, right? Most roles, more than 50, 60% are filled by referrals and recommendations that, hey, John's my friend, he's a good guy, you should talk to him for this role, XYZ. The preparation comes before day one. And I tell young people, listen, go find out, and this is just a practice, this is something I did with them. I would say, we're gonna visit XYZ company today. I need 5 facts about them. I need 5 questions about them. Help if they're a publicly traded company. Tell me something that recently happened in the news about them. Did they have earnings? Did something happen? How many employees do they have globally or wherever? There's all these things that young people don't dig into, probably take for granted, and thinking that, hey, my resume is going to get me this interview. I'll just tell them a little bit about myself and that's it. No, companies want to know that you've done your homework on them. So I think when I talk to young people, I tell them it actually starts before that first day. And when you show up on that first day, you're fully prepared, over prepared. And the feedback I got from all these firms I've been working with for the last 10 plus years is that my interns showed up more prepared than everybody else. And even during COVID, they were always cameras on, always making eye contact. Look, like every other intern camera off. I don't know what they were doing, but my students knew that to make that impression, which is sometimes the only one you get to make, the first one, make it as best as you can and come over prepared.
How should an intern use your book's tools in their first 30 days to maximize their edge?
The first week I meet them, the first thing I have them do is send 5 emails to me, to my friends. I have a group of people that will, volunteers. And John, they, again, preaching the choir here, but they write the way they text. College students, most of them, like they've never had that practice. So I always want to, and this is again before I would always have them do this exercise literally every day when they were with me. Send 5 emails to 5 different people, back and forth, interact. What is an email signature? Don't put the entire email in the subject line. It's all these things that nobody teaches them. Proper grammar, punctuation, right? So the book has some prompts where, listen, there's a bad email, here's a good email. Because with young people, I've found that you have to show them what good looks like, right? So the book is meant to do that. These are reusable prompts to help them polish their resumes, polish their LinkedIn profiles, send a proper email, understand that sending an email to the CEO versus sending an email to your colleague or your fellow intern is 2 different things. So again, the book is really meant to be a toolkit almost that they can literally open up to that page and say, listen, let's talk about communication here. What does that look like in the age of AI? For me, it's easy to tell when something's written by AI as well too. And people are getting better at noticing that. So again, don't let it be the thing that you can 100% rely on. Use it to help you practice. So we do things like I've built tools like a prompt gym for people. You can literally go to, like, you go into the gym to work out, you're working out, practicing prompts. It'll give you a scenario or a situation and have you kind of practice writing those prompts. So the book and the prompt library that we created, it was meant to do that.
Who is the target audience for this book?
High school students have been reading it because they're looking to get that edge going into college. They're looking to understand, like, how do I best prepare for a college career, which includes an internship somewhere, and how do I stand out right now? I mean, I've been working with high school kids for a long time as well. College students for sure have been reading it. Going into this internship, I mean, internships are starting right now in June, right? So I've been working with a lot of companies to say, hey, your cohort of interns need to read this. This is going to help them get prepared. And they're using it, like I said, like a field guide. They have it with them at their desk, and situations come up, they could point to a chapter. The reason why this book exists is because I don't want to be the bottleneck. I could only talk to so many young people. I could only be in so many places and conferences and events. I wanted to find a thing, a tangible thing that they can have digitally in their hand, physically. That, hey, what would Bevon say? What would his opinion be on this as I enter this internships? And of course, recent college grads, right? Those are the new hires. Those are the folks coming into those firms now in this summer, which is the full-on like AI age we're in. But interestingly, the parents of the young people I work with reached out to me too when I put the book out. It's like, what about us? We're changing careers. We want to know what's going on in our workplace. We don't know. So actually, on the list of my to-do list is like a version of this for parents. Everybody wants this AI edge these days, not just interns.